Welcome back to So Many Comics, So Little Time. This is our review of episode 2 of Daredevil Born Again. And we're going to take a look at the overview, relatively spoiler free. Then we'll follow with some detail about how this episode plays out. It is, again, like the first episode, which we also reviewed, really, really good. If you're a fan of the Netflix Daredevil show or the MCU in general, it is well worth watching. Definitely it's a positive overview. We have a couple questions about what might be happening down the road, but overall, again, in terms of characterization, flow, the atmosphere that goes with the original Netflix Daredevil TV show, it is right there. It is good. So, if you're a fan, go watch it if you haven't yet. I'm assuming people who are listening to this have seen it already. So, if you haven't, I really urge you to stop playing this right now. I can't believe I'm saying that. And watch the show, episode 2. Watch episode 1 first, obviously. And then come back and listen to what we have to say and let us know if you agree with us. Or me. Overview again. Good episode. Flows from first episode. The main focus again is on our main character, Matthew Murdock, Matt, the lawyer, and his legal defense of a new character, Hector Ayala, who is secretly, okay, slight spoiler here, but you probably figured this out, secretly the White Tiger, another one of those masked vigilantes that the new mayor, Wilson Fisk, has been railing against. So, in this scene, we are getting into a spoiler area, so just be aware. We don't really know who the character is yet, but we can kind of guess. So Hector Ayala comes across what looks like a mugging or beatdown of a guy in the subway of New York. Never been to New York, never been in the subways, but it seems like a lot of bad stuff happens there, at least in the movies and TV shows. Anyway, so he intervenes. There's a fight, yada yada. He's in civilian clothing, so he doesn't have his white tiger powers, which we'll talk about in a bit. And one of the assailants is actually killed when he falls into a speeding train. That happens a lot in the movies too, doesn't it? So then the other guy, the other assailant, flashes a badge and gun and says, "Police, you're under arrest." It's like, oh, well, this is different. So our hero, or our vigilante, is taken into custody. And of course, we now, perfect avenue for Matthew Murdock, the lawyer, the defense lawyer, to encounter him. So Murdoch's in the police station. He overhears with his super daredevil hearing that Ayala is being worked over by the cops because, killing another cop is considered bad form. And of course, the whole, well, they were beating up this guy thing. No one's believing him except Matt, of course. So we have two main threads of plot in this episode as I see it. Matt and his legal and later physical defense of Hector Ayala, aka White Tiger. And then the second thread is, as you probably figured this out from watching the first episode, Wilson Fisk and his transition to mayor from underworld overlord. Okay. So also kind of a subplot there. Fisk and his wife are having issues. Vanessa. We saw a little bit of that in the first episode. It's mentioned a few times here. And we'll get to how they're trying to resolve their issues later on. Again, Wilson Fisk, even though he's, just the kingpin of crime and all that, is presented, and Vincent D'Onofrio does an excellent job of this, is somewhat sympathetic figure. We saw this also in the Echo show. Not so much in the Hawkeye show, but in Echo, we really get a sense of his humanity, which, again, came out in the original Daredevil show, albeit as kind of a sociopathic form of humanity. So, there's not a whole lot of quote superhero action in this one, but again, it's building the world, building the characters. Matt is meeting with and interacting with this other vigilante. Of course, Matt is still not; he's still retired as Daredevil officially. So, what about White Tiger? So I always like to talk about the origins of these characters in the original comic books because that's the source code for all of this stuff. So White Tiger, Hector Ayala, is the character's real name. He first appeared. It was more of a magazine than a comic. This in the 70s. Marvel did a few things like this. It's a title called "The Deadly Hands of Kung Fu," and it's a black and white magazine slash comic that came out this way. Ayala's White Tiger's first appearance was in Deadly Hands of Kung Fu number 19. Came out in December of 1975 was the cover date. Um, Now the 70s went back up. Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, kind of an odd name for a comic book in a sense, but you have to understand the 70s. There's this blossoming of interest in martial arts, largely because of Bruce Lee. No relation. Uh, Bruce Lee brought martial arts movies to the mainstream, to the popular imagination, and that's where we also get a guy named Chuck Norris, who was Bruce Lee's opponent in one of those movies, and in the Deadly Hands of Kung Fu magazine, they have articles, actual articles, not just images and artistry about martial arts, kung fu, karate, etc. There's in Deadly Hands of Kung Fu number 20, the second appearance of White Tiger. We have they actually have an interview with Chuck Norris. This is long before Chuck Norris became a meme for being Mr. Indestructible. Um, so if you're into Chuck Norris at all or martial arts, it's worth going to look at these. I recently reviewed or looked at Deadly Hands of Kung Fu number 19 and 20 to learn more about White Tiger. He's not a character, frankly, I'm not um, aware of, into, partly because of the martial arts origins. That wasn't my thing back then. I've seen, a lot of Chuck Norris movies. I've seen the Bruce Lee movies, but it's not a big deal for me. People I knew I was growing up with back in the 70s were really into it. That's their thing. I get it. But be that as it may, it was a very popular thing back then. So it makes sense that Marvel would jump on the bandwagon, right? We have, Shang-Chi was a martial arts character, came out in that time period. He has a movie now. Um, and you got to think White Tiger at some point is going to interact with Shang-Chi in the movies, in the MCU. But White Tiger is basically a character. In the comics, he stumbles upon these magical amulets that give him enhanced powers and martial arts kung fu type stuff. So, um, and so in the Daredevil Born Again, we don't actually see White Tiger doing his thing in person in costume. We saw a video of it in the first episode, but here, when he has the amulets on, he has these powers. And so, in preparing Ayala's defense, Matt Murdock has his legal partner and his investigator, Cherry, the former cop, go and talk to Ayala's wife about getting him his clothing for court appearances, etc. Cherry takes the opportunity to go and kind of poke around, finds the White Tiger costume, and then it's like, oh, Matt goes like, why didn't you tell me about this? Blah blah blah. So they don't get into the details of this, but again, this is kind of a legal thing. In preparing his defense, Matt then goes and tells the DA, district attorney, and the judge that, hey, my client is White Tiger, blah blah. I wish they would they would have explained that a bit more. I mean, legally, did he have to reveal what he knew? It seems like odd for a defense attorney to do that, but he might have also been preemptive in that, well, they're going to figure this out eventually anyway. So now we have basically the outing of another vigilante who's still in jail. So they're everyone's looking for this guy that Ayala was rescuing from these corrupt cops. So at the end of the episode, we get we don't see Daredevil in costume, but Matt goes to talk to this guy, convince him, hey, you got to come forward, be a witness, yada, yada, yada. By the way, I didn't actually say it this way. I overheard the cops saying they're going to come and kill you. We got to get you out of here. So then Matt is there in this guy's apartment when then these two corrupt officers come in and they basically beat down on Matt. They're about to shoot Matt. Obviously, then Matt goes all daredevilish on them, and it's bad for the bad guys. So, question is, that's kind of where it ended there for the Matt part of this episode. What's going to happen to him next? Is he going to be arrested? I mean, he did just assault a couple of cops, but they were there to basically kill this witness. So, is it going to be a public thing? So again, given that Wilson Fisk knows who Murdoch is, and that he warned him, don't do your vigilante thing, how's this going to play out? Now back to Wilson Fisk. Again, we see him kind of learning how to be the mayor. He's still using some questionable tactics to get what he wants. He basically is blackmailing, threatening the police commissioner to stay on. That's an interesting piece. There's no hint of threat. It's just like, oh, you have this secret that you don't want to be revealed. And that's kind of the thing that I know happens in politics anyway. So again, using some, maybe perhaps underworld type threatening gestures, but it may not really be an underworld type threat. So the interesting piece here about Wilson Fisk is that at the end, he and his wife are trying to reconcile. And so they see a marriage therapist or counselor. It turned out to be Heather Glenn, who is Matt Murdoch's new girlfriend. Ooh, coincidence? Only in the comics. So, and so that is quite interesting also. And that's going to be another connection between Fisk and Murdoch going forward. I would assume at this point that they don't know she is the girlfriend of Matt Murdoch. You never know. But again, Wilson Fisk and his wife in this counseling session, he seems like he's being genuine here about this is why I want to see this counselor, not because of some nefarious reason. So overall, excellent episode. I'm really, really looking forward to the next one. And again, I encourage you all to watch this and go back. If you have Marvel Unlimited or some other resource that lets you go back and look at the origin of the White Tiger. Again, that particular magazine isn't my kettle of fish. It's black and white. It's not colored. There's a lot of martial arts stuff in there besides just the comic book type stories. But again, gives you the origin of the guy. And one other thing to mention here is that the actor, and I learned this as I was doing some research on White Tiger, Camar de los Reyes, probably not saying it properly, the guy who plays White Tiger, Hector Ayala in the show, he filmed it in 2023 apparently, but he's died since then. So it's like, okay, how long is this guy actually going to be in the show? Depends on when they, I don't really know when they filmed all this versus when he passed away of cancer. But in the comics, there's more than one White Tiger. The name, the title, the amulets, the power gets passed on to others. So that could also be happening here, and we've seen something similar in Hawkeye. There's not two Hawkeyes. There's several Black Widows. We have Ironheart getting Iron Man type armor. We have a second Black Panther, the sister of the first one, mostly because the actor in this case has also passed away. The great actor who played Black Panther. So I'm curious what's going to happen here and how much we're actually going to see Camar de los Reyes as Hector Ayala. Now, given his circumstances and what's happened to him already in jail, I mean, I could see them killing him off in a logical way, unfortunately. So this is where we're at with Daredevil Born Again and episode 2. And again, it is a good show. I encourage you all to take a look. And of course, always go back and read the Daredevil comic books. Kingpin is one of the more interesting comic characters. He started off as a Spider-Man villain and kind of migrated over to Daredevil, where he fits. By the way, Spider-Man reference in the show. Wilson Fisk in his talks about his anti-vigilante rant. He talks about, he references White Tiger. He references vigilantes, I'm paraphrasing here, who go around in a spider outfit. And then he makes reference to Daredevil and the guy who runs with devil horns. So Spider-Man is was made into a comment here. Again, perfect timing, perfect use of the shared universe we see in both the comics and in the MCU. All right, that wraps it up here. Looking forward to episode 3. We'll review that as well. So, by the way, in addition to this podcast, we also have a YouTube video that is kind of automatically generated where I'm making this podcast through Substack. Substack has this process where it automatically takes the image I put into the Substack post, the audio file, and blends it into a podcast video and then posts it for me. So it's kind of interesting. So check that out if you want to. So Many Comics So Little Time is also our YouTube channel. All right. That wraps up for now. So thank you all, and I'll see you later on. This is Roger with So Many Comics So Little Time. Talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.